I feel bad about it sometimes, to be honest, because their old drummer Ben, he's like super nice guy, he's awesome, and then they're like, yeah, but like you play drums this
Yeah.
way.
Let's do it again from You're Not Hardcore. 1, 2, 3.
I actually realized I have two bevs, and I was just like rushing around, and I didn't realize I grabbed one for the fridge. So I'm actually gonna make you pick between,
Okay.
it's off camera so you don't see, but we'll have to one will sponsor the episode and one won't. So we'll have to see what happens.
Okay.
But without further ado, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. We're not traveling anywhere geographically today. We're staying right here in Calgary, and I am very excited to chat with Brock, who is a drummer here, plays in MACE and a band called Set Straight. Gone to a number of hardcore shows, filmed your projects a couple times, so I'm really excited to be having you on the show officially.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I think, Brock and I have, again, been able to connect a lot through the different things happening in Calgary hardcore prior to the pandemic. And, there might be a little, potential of things, coming up in the fall. Doing any shows in the winter is not for the faint of heart. Even if you are Canadian, you did grow up here. It's not like the easiest thing to pack all your drums into the car when it's minus 20 degrees. But yeah, I'm stoked to have you on the show, man.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So, Brock, I think you've checked out a couple episodes of other people that, are either mutual of ours or maybe people in bands that you like. But you know that we like to check some bevs before we get into the music chats. So tell me what you're going to be bringing to the show. And then, I'm not sure how much of the preamble I'll include, but you might have to choose a bev for me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, today I just got water.
Yes.
It's good. It's just straight out water. It's good. It's hot out. Well, it's cold in my house, but it's hot outside. So
Yeah, currently, as far as the time we're recording this, Calgary has gone through a crazy heat wave. So as soon as Brock jumped into the Zoom, I was like, "How are you wearing a hoodie right now, my guy? Like that's not the article of clothing that I would choose." But if you got AC, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But what is the water straight out of the tap? You got a little door kind of set up? Like, tell me.
I got this like little filter thing. You just like fill it up in the sink or whatever, and you just put it in the fridge. It filters it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always the go-to. It's like it's not straight out of the tap. It's gone through a couple processes to make it the best water that you can be.
Yeah.
So here's the issue. I was like rushing to this podcast because the one I just did prior was like running a little behind, and I want to be sensitive of Brock's time. So I grabbed a can out of the fridge, but I also made a bev. So I don't know if I should show you or just have you blindly choose on which one I use. Do you want to? Do you think it's better to show, or what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I feel like I'm missing out if I don't see the other one too. So
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so here I'll give you the two. So the first I made like a nice dirty chai from our bev sponsor from Say When. Let me preface this. Whichever you choose, I'll probably drink both. Like if I'm being completely honest. So we got that, but then I came home from traveling and Bryn bought this like Vine. So it's
Oh,
a hop infused sparkling water. So
nice.
it's like a non-alcoholic sparkling water, but it has hops or hop extract in it. I had one of these yesterday and I really liked it. So again, I shows that my planning wasn't 100%. So maybe you can let me know which is the official bev to check, but realistically I'll probably drink both.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I love coffee so much. Like it's sick. So I'm gonna have to go with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, we'll be drinking the dirty chai. Maybe halfway through this, I'll drink this. But either way, cheers to you, Brock. Stoked to have you on the show and chat about some music shit.
hmm
Are you pretty on your hydration game outside of like the heat wave is concerned?
Wait. Sorry. What was that?
Oh, I was just asking, do you drink a lot of water or are you like always forgetting like I should drink more water? Like where do you fall on the scale of that?
Well, it's kind of strange. I mean, I try to drink as much water as I can, but I don't know. There'll be days where I just like I'll sleep in a lot, and then like I got some stuff to do, then I got to go to work, and then it's like, just don't not the top priority of the day, I guess.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely days where I like will feel great and I'll drink 3 glasses and I'm like, look at me go. And then there's weeks where I'm like, I haven't drank any water in the last 4 days. Like, so, yeah, it's something that you have to practice probably versus just like, let me just down an entire liter of water in one go and feel good about that. Um, but yeah, Brock, stoked to have you on the show. So we've checked some bevs. I always like to ask any new guest that comes on the show, just getting a little bit of context about how they got into heavy music. And I think there's a little bit of a. I always try to keep in mind like when I ask that of whatever guest comes on the show, like what is kind of the age range that they're kind of in and when realistically were they like first listening to music. Some people might like the guest that I had on before was like 10 years older than me, so like some of her first hardcore shows I was like 1 at the time, so I always am interested on that. So tell me about some of those formative records and moments for you of just like getting like discovering hardcore and what that meant for you.
Okay. Well, so like right at the beginning of whenever I first started getting to music and stuff, I was like super young. I was like 5 or 6, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I would I had this babysitter that used to pick me up from school, take me back home, look after me until my parents got home from work.
Mm-hmm.
And she would play Billy Talent in the car all the time. So like,
Oh, okay.
but like, they're like the first music that I started to really like. They have like some heavy moments and stuff, but yeah, I got really into them, and then I just started like looking at a bunch of bands that were like them and similar to them and that stuff like that. And then it wasn't until a little bit later whenever I started discovering like I don't know like 3 Days Grace or I don't know, they're like a lot of the emo stuff like Pierce the Veil and Sleeping with Sirens and stuff
Sure.
like that. And then I don't know, all those bands they have aggressive parts, they have melodic parts, stuff like that. And I couldn't really pinpoint where hardcore came into my life. I just like really liked exploring a lot of new music, and I just eventually started finding heavier music and stuff. Um I would just play music with my friends. They would show me stuff, I'd show them stuff, and it was cool. Never really knew like, oh, this is hardcore, or this is like pop punk, or this is like rock or
Right.
anything like that. So eventually I was into like really into like taking photos and videos and stuff.
Okay.
And so that's a little bit besides the point, but I was out taking photos, and on 17th Ave up on my house, there used to be a drum store called Beat It.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, there's like this really nice old guy that worked there. And I was like, fuck, I'm bored. I'm walking around. I may as well go inside. So I went inside, and he just talked to me like, how long you been playing drums for? I'm like, I have never picked up a drumstick before or anything like that.
Sure.
And so I walked in there, and I don't know, he just decided to show me like the store and everything. And like I was into it. It was cool. Like the store it looked cool. Drums were loud. It was like a little scary at first, but he started playing some stuff. He showed me his rehearsal space in the basement. He taught me how to play a few beats and stuff like that. Um, yeah, eventually I got a drum kit and I set up in my garage, and I was just plugging in my headphones and playing along to like different songs and stuff. Like played a lot of Billy Talent. Back then I was really into like just like a weird mix of music, just like a lot of everything, because there wasn't any like specific music at that point that I was like really into.
Mm.
So I started playing drums. My mom signed me up for like this like music school thing. It's like you go in and they get you up together with a bunch of kids and they teach you songs and they teach you how to play together as a band and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So then this one kid that went there, he was friends with, well, I used to be friends with Zach from Set Straight, the vocalist.
Yeah.
And he was like, he messaged me, he was like, yo, dude, I know you play drums. Me and Zach are trying to start up a project. Come over, can we come over tomorrow? Like learn these two songs. They sent me like two counterpart songs. And they're like, yeah, learn these songs. And I listened to them.
Very
I was like,
intricate drumming for like the next day we're jamming.
yeah. So I just listened to it like that entire night, and in the morning, whenever like my parents weren't sleeping and shit, I tried. I just kept trying to play it. Like wasn't great right off the bat, but I don't know. They came over, we played and stuff, and that's pretty much how I met Zach. Me and Zach aren't really friends with that kid anymore. You know, whatever. But eventually, Zach, Colby, and I think Ben at the time. They were all jamming. They had their project going and everything. And they needed a second guitarist. So eventually they invited me to play guitarist for them because they wanted to have like two guitarists, a bassist, drummer, vocalist, that sort of lineup. And I started playing guitar for them. I wasn't great at guitar. My mom just bought me a guitar for my birthday one year and I kept playing and stuff. I wasn't bad, but you know, so yeah, after that, we had a few practices and everything. One day they helped me walk my gear back to my house, and there was like this big guitar cabin there, and Kobe was like, yo, you gotta let me try playing that thing. And then I was playing my drums, he started playing riffs. I started playing drums, and they're like, yo, you're pretty good at drums. So then
You're like,
like
that's what I actually started with.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that's actually what I play more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, going back to it, like, did you have like, was there a desire for you to play drums before you went into this drum store and this guy's like kind of like forming you into being a drummer? Like, was there a desire before that, or was that like, if you didn't walk into that store, would you have ever played drums?
well, I was into music, so like I like the idea of drums. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You make music with these things, right? So whenever I went to the store, I was like, yeah, this is sick. But I never like had a real desire to like play drums. I never really thought about it before. But after that, he started showing me stuff. I was like, yeah, this is a lot of fun. Um, yeah, I kept going to that shop like a few times. And then yeah, I eventually just bought my own drum kit and started practicing from home and stuff like that. Like I'd say the dude that owned that shop there definitely like kind of started um like got me into playing drums, because like I don't think if it wasn't for that shop and that guy, like I probably wouldn't have cared much to pick up an instrument or anything like that.
Yeah, and there's been, lots of stories in my life and just people that have come on this podcast where, small instances or moments where, whether at a show or like doing something that like affects you for like, without that happening, I might not have started a label or like started to book my own shows or whatever it is. So I love that that idea where it's like you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna go in and check it out. And then it's like, over time, kind of being like, whoa, like what are all these big tubes, and like I can hit them, and this one sounds deeper and this one sounds higher in tone or whatever it is. So um yeah, I love that idea of just like having that place at the right time to be able to put you on the drum path. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there's that guy who showed me a bunch of stuff. That was really cool. I went to that little music school. It was cool at the time, but like, yeah, I don't know. It got to the point where I was like, yeah, these kids, they aren't into it as me anymore, I don't think.
Yeah,
And
were you doing like, okay, everyone's got to pick a song and we all cover it at the same time, or some like
well,
dad rock stuff, or what were you guys playing?
Well, so the owners and or the owner and the instructors there used to like pick all the songs and stuff. They used to do different themes for different seasons.
Right.
Like we would play a season like they did a Vans Warp Tour one. They did like an 80s hair
Oh,
metal,
okay. Hmm.
stuff like that. Just different themes and stuff. And then we would have to learn songs that they pick and then play it like at little shows and stuff around
Sure.
the school.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's how I got introduced to Zach and everything. I started playing guitar in set straight. Yeah, guitar I wasn't really into it at the time. That didn't come till like a little bit later, like whenever I was starting at MACE and stuff, but we'll get there.
Hmm.
Um,
Quickly, I wanted to ask you, like the not like it was a forced band practice, but it's through a music school and there's like kind of like a hidden agenda of like we're trying to make this performance for the parents who are paying for your music lessons and blah blah blah. Do you like I've always looked back at like the earlier stuff that I was doing, and there were moments of that, but like there was also like I learned a lot being like in a friend's basement and just like for lack of a better term dicking around on like trying to cover this song or write this ridiculous thing or whatever. So do you feel like you got any value from like being in that like music school and you're like intentionally covering a song versus if you were like just jamming with homies who all liked a similar style of music?
well, so I really, I really liked how, like, well, learning new music that I wouldn't like usually like choose to play to and stuff. It really opened up like how like my influences and stuff, like how I play my drums and
Sure.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. Um, carries over a lot into other stuff,
Hmm.
but I don't know. So I signed up there because my mom really originally she just like, yeah, if you're gonna play drums, you may as well like learn how to play with other people. Why not? Who knows? Maybe you'll really like it.
Hmm.
I was hesitant at first. I thought it was really cool at first because I was getting drum lessons. I was playing songs with other kids, which I've never done before. It was like so much fun and everything. Then after a while playing there, it was like we're just playing shows for like a group of parents and like really, really young kids and stuff. And
Right.
I was playing there. I was like, yeah, I mean, I've played in front of like this group of like 10 parents like 100 times. Like I'm paying money to be there. I'm like, I don't know, I'm like not really into playing like 80s hair metal, for example,
Yeah.
as much as or like Rush or like other stuff like that sort of thing, like classic rock and stuff.
Hmm.
Wasn't really my thing. Like I'd play it, yeah, I'd be able to play it, but it's just not really what gets me going,
For sure.
I guess.
So
Yeah.
yeah, tell me when like hardcore was kind of making its way into the picture and you're like, "Oh, like I'm seeing these bands play and there's actually like a give and take between the band and the people that are at the show, whether they're, moshing or singing along." How did that kind of make its way into your life?
Well, that was the first like so whenever that old friend showed me Counterparts was like my first like yeah, these guys thing have like a specific thing, like because you know how they have like their specific sound, their aesthetic, that sort of thing. I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. Like that's pretty sick. I've vibe with that. And
Hmm.
then they're asking me to cover these songs at their band practice. Like, yeah, I'm down to do that. Like that's so much more sick. I'm way more into that than what I'm doing at this music school.
Right.
Um, yeah, and whenever I try to play it and everything, I was like, this is so much more fun. It's more challenging, a lot more challenging, going
Yes.
from playing like ACDC to like Counterparts. So
Yeah,
yeah.
there's something to be said about like an AC/DC style beat in like a hardcore song, but if you're
Oh
only doing that and not being able to like have that flair that maybe a band like Counterparts has, like I think that's I love that you just said that you know you were looking into a world that you didn't really know, but it was like this has a lot more technicality and almost like skill set that I would need to apply versus like I could literally read the music, at my music school or whatever.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I don't know, like I got bored of the old school, and this was something that was new, super new to me, and it seemed super cool and everything. I didn't At that point, I didn't know anything about like the culture behind it. I didn't know what moshing was. I didn't know what a hardcore show was like.
Right.
My interpretation of a concert was either like, yeah, like Metallica is coming to town, or like
Sure.
or just like me and my friends at like the music school shows just playing in front of like our parents or something. Like I didn't really know anything outside of that little bubble, I guess you could say.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so uh we had those band practices, whatever, it didn't work out. Then Zach went over with other friends instead of that like old friend that we used to have. Started playing with Set Straight. I joined in with a guitar. I just ended up playing drums in front of them at our band practice, and they're like, "Yo, that's sick." And then I feel bad about it sometimes, to be honest, because their old drummer Ben, he's like super nice guy, he's awesome. And then they're like, "Yeah, but like you play drums this
Yeah.
way."
Yeah.
Yes.
So you kind of had to like, like respectively, like maybe I'm not the best guitar player, but I can do this. And then yeah, that's how that thing kind of
Yeah.
and this is this is well before you guys' first show, because the first show, if I'm remembering the timeline correctly, was I guess the end of 2019, like October-ish. It was with
Around.
yeah, it was with Plead and Ugly, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh, I don't think we played that one.
Oh, it could be something else, but I know it was at Sloth.
Yeah, it was at Sloth. It
Mhm.
was Fuse and Crafter
Oh,
was.
yes, yeah. That was the Crafter tour that they canceled, and then it was like Fuse Endgame, and yeah. Sorry, I'm getting a couple things mixed up there.
Yeah, back whenever, yeah, like whenever Crafter was like, "Yo, we're breaking up on tour," and then they told Set Straight that, and he was like, "Yo, can you go tell the promoter that?"
Oh, yeah. Not to throw that band under the bus or throw shade or whatever, but it was because I saw them at Snow and Flurry Fest, and then it was like on stage, they're like, "Yeah, this band is breaking up," and everyone was like, "Wait, what's happening?" And then, like, I was talking to the vocalist, like, "Hey, we're playing with you when you come through Calgary in a couple days," and he's like, "Oh yeah," and then clearly that didn't happen. So,
Yeah.
anyways, so that show, okay, yeah. So the timeline was correct. The lineup was not. So it was November 2019. So you doing the switch from guitar to drums was like, how much time is there in between those events?
Well, so I was like playing the drums the whole time pretty much. Just guitar was like kind of a side thing that I would do every once in a while. I was never really good at it for a while.
Mhm.
And then so I joined Set Straight, or I was playing, we would practice, we would write new songs and everything, going up to the Set Straight's first show. But in between that time, whenever I first started playing drums for them,
Mm.
and the first show, I started picking up my guitar more often. Like because, well, when we were in the process of writing the songs for the first show and everything, I downloaded GarageBand on my computer, and I was just like trying to record stuff, whatever. And then in between those band practices and stuff, I was like, yeah, I want to keep doing this. This is fun. So I picked up my guitar and I tried to write riffs and stuff like horribly off time and like not sounding very good because I didn't play guitar. I played drums. And then
Mm.
I tried writing riffs and everything. I tried recording drums to that and stuff like that. Just try to get a better idea of what we're playing and everything so I can like listen back to ideas and stuff.
Mm.
And that's actually how MACE started, was just me trying to record stuff on guitar.
Mm.
And
Okay.
like so yeah, Mace's demo, we did like a 7-song LP, which is like a little strange for like a demo, but
Right. Just coming out of the gate swinging. I love
yeah.
it.
So yeah, we dropped that. I don't know. It's not my favorite work, but I like it for what it is because it's just like it was like
You got to just get it out and just keep rolling on new stuff. So
yeah.
mhm.
So put that out there. I was really into that. Max, the vocalist of Mace, and who's also playing bass now in Set Straight.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was like, I knew he was like kind of into some heavy stuff, so I texted him one day while I was at school, and I was like, "Hey, I've been like recording some stuff at home. Like, do you know how to do vocals at all?" And he was like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, well, can you like yell really loud?" And he was like, "Yeah." Like, all right, well, come over.
There's not
Let's
much of a
record.
difference between those two things. Can you do vocals? I'm not sure. Can you yell really loud? Probably. All right. We could probably figure it out from there.
Well, he eventually got his technique down, but it started out with just like going at it.
Right, for sure.
But yeah, you
So
can.
so you guys so I guess like Mace kind of started as you're like, I'm playing drums in Set Straight, the school hardcore band, but I also want to scratch the itch of playing guitar as well and just like see what I could do in that area, and that became a band out of that.
Yeah, like both guitar and recording, like kind of
Mm-hmm.
both guitar and
Sure.
recording, just both together, just like getting more into that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Would you also like demo Set Straight stuff, like prior to you guys recording with the Chans, or was it only kind of in the Mace realm that you were doing anything recording wise?
it was mostly in the Mace realm that I
Okay.
was like recording demos and stuff for. I did make demo tracks for when we went to go record with the Chans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I just like programmed a bass and then like programmed drums and stuff. I'm like, you know what? I can follow along to this. We're recording drums anyways, so I was figured
Yes.
like, yeah, if I can follow along to it, then if they can follow along to the drums, then
Right.
yeah, they know what they're playing. So
Right.
yeah,
Love that.
yeah,
Okay, so the timeline of this again is because Mace has played. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys have played one show
we played
or two. It's one or
uh
two.
three actually.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Add one,
well,
two, and then you get the actual amount, which is three.
but yeah, we got our first show. It was just like it wasn't really a show. We just kind of invited like a bunch of our friends and played in my garage, just because.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
and
I thought when I saw, if I'm remembering the show correctly, I think I saw that and I was like, because I had saw you guys like, you followed the Scoped Instagram. I was like, oh, okay, this is like Brock's other band. But then it was like, oh yeah, we played a show. I was like, did I not see a flyer or something like that? Like I'm trying to be on top of that as much as I can, but I guess it was like, was it kind of like a spontaneous thing that you guys wanted to do?
it was decently spontaneous. Yeah, I don't
Sure.
know. It was summer. We were bored. We are looking for stuff to do. It was like, yeah, we should play. We play in a band. Like let's practice. Let's play a show in front of our friends and stuff. And it was a
Hmm.
lot of fun. It was just like 10, 15 people in my garage. We were playing. It was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
All stuff like that. Uh, then our second show we played like just like, literally across the street from my house, like that way. There's like this community hall
Okay.
here in Derek, and we uh we rented out that place, and we got it was like a really weird bill. We got like two noise bands or
Oh,
like
okay.
noise sets. I don't know. I was just trying to put on a show. I didn't like. I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it
Mm.
like the way I think about things now. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was strange. It was just like these people are in Calgary. Cool.
Hmm.
Noise set, pop punk, deathcore, then beat down. So it was strange, but it worked out.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, because I think you guys have kind of like gone under, not under the radar, but like, I haven't seen that like proper debut, in my opinion, of like playing like, you guys are definitely leaning in that beatdown space, but like I know Calgary hardcore has a lot of like heavy metallic roots, so like beatdown is wildly welcome, I think. So yeah, I just haven't seen that proper debut, and maybe there's like a self judgment of like, oh man, like this Calgary band has played three times and I haven't been able to catch any of the sets, let alone film it and put it on the channel. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
just been wild how it's like, yeah, let's do this sporadic show with all these friends, and then like, hey, like it's clear that you guys just wanted to like to play, and it didn't really matter about like who with, or like, at what scale or anything like that.
Yeah, I think nowadays we're more like we have better grasp on like how things like work really. It's
Sure.
like it's like my whole music like how I was getting into is all pretty spontaneous. Like, yeah, play drums, like play guitar on the side, play counterparts, record demos, do the like it
Right.
was pretty quick into it. But I think after doing that for a while, like a few like 2 or 3 years now,
Mm,
yeah, I've been like doing that. It's I don't know, just things make more sense. Like
right.
I've been like trying to learn more about like marketing and branding and stuff like that for our bands and stuff.
Sure.
Um, stuff like that as well. But yeah, I don't know. Shows that I've played, like the only real like shows that I think have made any sort of impact on the hardcore community in Calgary is like with Set Straight,
Mm,
because I think that has a lot to do with Colby and Zach being friends like as many people as they can in hardcore.
yeah.
That's one thing that I hear a lot is about like everyone goes to hardcore shows and they talk to each other and make friends and everything, and everyone supports each other.
Mm,
And I think that's awesome. But for me, I've always been like more of a quiet kid and like shy and everything. And I would go to shows and stuff, and I would never really talk to a lot of people. Like I would just be sitting off to the side and like bob my head. Like I was having a great time, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. Didn't really talk to a lot of people.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting point you bring up, because I think about that constantly, where like going to a hardcore show is a very like outgoing kind of like experience. And if you're like more of an introverted person, like you want to go to the show, but it like requires a lot of energy, or it might not be your primary way that you would socialize with people, right? But it's
Yeah.
like, we've been in the pandemic for so long that it's like clear, in my opinion, that like people that, wherever they lean on, that they're like they still want to go to a show. They want to have that live experience, like, listening to a certain record just on Spotify on repeat like doesn't do the same justice as seeing that band execute those songs in a live setting. So um and on that point too, I definitely know that I'm a little bit more of like an outgoing person, like to connect with lots of friends. But I've, had a realization through this podcast, is that I don't feel truly connected to these people that I get to see on an ongoing basis at shows if I don't get to have a one-on-one conversation like we're doing right now. Like there
Yeah.
isn't, like, half the time there isn't a time to do that, because there's, you know, you're talking to someone, and then someone walks by, and you're like, now it's like a three-person conversation, and then that person leaves, and then it's like, okay, well, did I make any actual like groundwork on, my friends or whatever. So
Yeah.
so that's been kind of interesting for me, as far as like, like we've crossed paths multiple times. I remember, we're in the middle of a conversation, and then someone on the streets is like giving us a hard time, and then we're like, kind of like, joking with them, and then, joke with each other after. But, learning about you and how like you came into this space is, you know, this is the first time for myself that I'm hearing it. And I'm sure like a couple other people, that I know who are in Calgary hardcore, who are going to be listening to this, might are probably going to say the same. They're like, I know Brock, but I don't know how Brock came into this space. So I personally love that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Um, I'm starting to realize like how I explain like how I got into it, and like my timeline's like a little bit like, but yeah. Anyway, um, going to shows like on that topic. Back whenever I was first like the like whenever me and Zach's friend invited like started the band practice, whatever. That's whenever I started hearing about shows and stuff. Like that kid would send me shows that are happening. Zach would send me a few shows. I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's go see what this is like live. And
Hmm.
I didn't know about like pits or anything like that. So I showed up. It was like a million degrees out. I pulled up to a Commons church,
Hmm.
and I think it was like enemies maybe, like ingrown Um,
Oh, and Regional Justice Center.
yeah,
Yep, I
yeah,
remember that show very vividly.
awesome. Yeah, yeah, I
It was
went there.
very hot in that basement. I will say that.
Yep, very, very warm. Yeah. Yeah, so I went to that show. I talked to a few people. I brought a few friends there.
Hmm.
Zach and that other kid were there. We were talking. Yeah, I was lucky enough to meet Evan Shaw there. He was
Mhm.
very nice. I didn't talk to him much. Like I talked to him a few times, so I can't really say that like I can't really say that he was like a big part of my introduction into hardcore, but like he was nice. I talked to him a few times.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and he was promoting that show and everything. And so yeah, the band started playing, and then everyone was like moshing and like opening everything up and everything. I was like, yo, what's going on? And then yeah, everyone was going at it, the bands were going at it. I was like, dude, this is sick. And then like, I don't know, there's just like watching it all happen, and it's like you just see the bands going at it. They're clearly having a great time. That people like moshing in there and everything, they're clearly having a great time. Like even though they're like, you know, um, like hitting each other and they're like have a smile on their face. They're like, wow, that's like sick.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then I was like, okay, I can do that. I walk through, get clocked right away, and then yeah, for like the rest of the show, I didn't go back in, and like the show after that, I didn't go back in.
Mm.
But then after a while, I started getting like back into it and stuff, and I was like, I don't know. It took a few like shit kickings to like be okay with it, but you
Right.
know,
Yeah, it is that weird thing where like if you've never experienced like I'm sure a lot of kids when they're like before they get into hardcore experience like a push pit. So it's just everyone like bouncing around like they're popcorn kernels ready to be popped or whatever. But like the difference with hardcore is that it's like there is a lot of different ways that people are going off, right? Like there's people that are maybe jumping on the stage to jump off. And even on that alone, like people might front flip, people might like kind of go to the side, maybe they just fall, forward. And the same thing goes with moshing. Like some people will, throw their arms, some people will just two step. So when you're like a new fish in a big pond and you just go in like, blindly, obviously like you might get a kick or a fist to the face or whatever it is. But it is
mm,
it is that funny thing where that happens and that doesn't like your brain is not wired to be like that's fucked or I'm hurt, I'm leaving. Like you're just like, oh, okay, that's what that's about. Like I I
yeah.
I think that's just like so interesting that it is such like not like a true test, but it is like that weird thing where like okay, if you can take a fist and then you like start to learn like, oh, okay, this is how some of these things happen, but it's not you don't default into like, oh, I got punched and that's a bad thing, you know?
Yeah, like I walked into that kind of environment, like seeing what's happening, like knowing that I'm new to this
Mhm.
and like this is the way things work here.
Yes.
So I like walk into it as like, oh, so they're doing this here, that's cool. Like usually when I approach things like that, it's like, okay, I'm the new guy here. I'm gonna experience what's happening here. And if I'm just gonna choose whether or not I'm gonna stick with it or be like maybe not my thing. And then
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, like it was a little strange at first, like, but seeing it was like I kind of got it, you know. It was like it wasn't like, yo, what the hell's going on?
Right,
It's
right. Do we have to break
yeah,
this up? You're like, no, no, no.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like I got it, and eventually I started participating in stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I never went to like a shit ton of shows or anything. I never moshed a shit ton. I never talked to a whole lot of people, but I don't know. My my experience with it is like I've met a few people. I've had great times and everything at shows.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. I think at this point, my goal based on those experiences to I just want to play shows like that
Mm.
for the most part because it
Yeah.
like so much. It just looks like so much fun,
Yeah.
and
It's
I've had
sorry to cut you off. I think it is that thing where you see it and then you're like, "Oh, I can actually write music that like invites that same thing." And like it's super rewarding to have like I remember in each band that I've played in, like that one show that was the craziest. Like I won't name the bands because like not like any of the dudes in either of the bands are gonna listen and be like, oh, that show. But one band I was playing in, we were the direct, I think we were direct support for a band that had like a CD release party.
Oh yeah.
So they were headlining and we were playing like just before them. And like something happened in our set where like it like that was the first time ever that I've had anyone like stage dive to like, a band that I was playing in, and it was like multiple stage divers multiple times, and it was like just you felt the energy in the room, and I think we kind of like showed up the band that was headlining, which I kind of felt bad about, but like low key like that's pretty badass that we're like got a better response than this other band. They at the time they're all friends of mine, but I thought that was just like again, I remember that so vividly in my mind because it was like I've gone to shows where, Counterparts or Comeback Kid or any of those bands would have that same response, and to have that attainableness in like such a, for me was like, wow, okay, like if I can do this, what else can I do within this space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things that drew me into wanting to play hardcore shows as well, is because, well, if you look at hardcore shows online, like no matter like the size of the band, obviously there'll be more people, bigger venues and stuff, but you can still look and see like it's almost like everyone started like kind of at the same sort of place. Like everyone like plays like a show with like 10, 15 people or something, and then they grow like the more they play and everything like that. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, just no matter who I search up, there's always like a video of like a small show, not that many people there, but it's still like a great show, it's like people are going off and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I looked at it and I was like, well, hey, maybe I can do that. And then like even at like the smaller level, I can still feel like I don't know how to describe it. It's like um I can still feel like I'm doing the same thing as these people that I look up to.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But
I got you.
at that level, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like
it's crazy, and I think it's even super cool to see, the younger generation of Calgary hardcore, like even just like the age, like coming, originally growing up in Winnipeg, like the average age for people at a hardcore show was like definitely over the age of 18, and we didn't really have like that younger generation. And then coming to Calgary and seeing kids like you and Zach and Colby and like a number of other people, like A, start cool bands, and B, just like be at like even just be in the fucking room. That was like so rewarding, and just really really cool to see. So it feels like a huge accomplishment for any of you, any of you guys, where it's like um any big show opportunity where people are kind of giving that back to you, and even just having your friends going off, like I think that's just cool because then it just feels like the legacy and the generation just like kind of continues on, because like hardcore is such like a, like I was talking with the person before our call, like hardcore is such like a youth focused music genre. And you know when we didn't have like you kids around, it was like, oh, like everyone here is like well into their 20s and like having other things come into the mix in their life. So it is such like a breath of fresh air in my opinion to have bands like Set Straight, bands like Mace, um just like exist. And again, that inspires other kids to like to come check it out, maybe start their own bands, and then the snowball starts to build from there.
absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, I think another thing is like I mentioned before, like the whole like different like hardcore bands just have like their different aesthetics and stuff like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
Counterpart, for example, has a very distinguishable one. Um, I don't know, just off of the top of my head, I guess. But I don't know. I think something like that is a lot more palatable to how kids are these days
Okay.
because I don't know. I think like a lot of people, if you look at I don't know, I just think it's something that's very in like high school kids, for example.
Mm.
So I think like around school or something, like there's not a lot of people that I'll meet at school that listen to the same kind of music that I listen to.
Mm.
But when I show them something, like usually if I show someone something like that, I'll show them a music video or something so that they can like really get it and not just hear like the screams, like, oh, I don't like this, it's screaming or whatever. I show
Right.
them what it's so easy to show someone like what it's all about and everything in like a music video or something, and like
Yeah.
show them like show them the culture through, show them stuff like that just through a video or something. And then a lot of people, I don't know, first there's something about it that I think like a lot of people get right away
Hmm.
about it. And I don't know, I think it's just a good way to, I don't know, it's easier to bring more friends into it. I don't know, at school I'm trying, at least whenever school whenever shows come back after this pandemic, I'm going to try to get as many of my friends from school there as possible, just like even if they don't come back, whatever, you know.
Hmm.
At least I'm trying to like, I don't know, I just really want like more kids to come for like, you know, for those same reasons.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I love that you brought up just like using the visuals of hardcore to kind of like further explain it, because it's very easy to listen if you're just like, "Hey, here's Madball, here's the record," and you're listening to it, like it's very easy to be like, "I don't like this," and then it's over. But if you were like, "Hey, here's a Madball set," and like people are going off and going crazy, like I feel like Turnstile is a band that like I think has put like, they've been around for a long time, but I think that they've, now they're on like a major label, and I'm sure that they're bringing new kids in to that space that like, they're like, "Oh, this is like rock music." It's like, "Well, like no, they're a hardcore band, but they've evolved and blah blah blah." But
Yeah.
just using them as an example, like like you could show anyone a Turnstile live set from This Is Hardcore or anything, and like most of the time people are just like in awe. They're like, everyone's spinning and jumping on top of each other, and the bass player like put his bass down and then just jumped off. Like, what's going on? So I think that it's such a powerful thing, like for live sets and music videos, to show that aesthetic and style, like you were saying, versus just here's the headphones on and like, people are gonna quickly decide if it's audio only, whether they like that style of music or not. But maybe they'll become a little bit more open to it if they know like, oh, like this is how like the music is being interacted with, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
One thing um that comes to mind whenever I think of stuff like that as well is how a lot of like rappers and stuff like that are kind of trying to get like a piece of that as well. For
Yeah, yeah.
example, Suicide Boys or something like that. They've got a lot of stuff that you would hear like a hardcore vocalist doing, um, and stuff like that. You would, and as well as like them making like actual hardcore records and stuff like just out of the blue, like I think that's really cool to bring like a lot of new kids and stuff like that. So whenever I'm explaining like, oh yeah, I don't know, have you heard like the have you, oh, what do you do, Ghostman or something, for
Mm.
example, they'd be like I don't know, it's something that maybe they've already heard or into, or that like um I don't know, it's easier for them to get into
Sure.
because of like the way being social works in school or something. Like, I don't know, for example, I get picked on for being like a metalhead kid, whatever. That's just what they think of me. But if at least if I can relate to be like, oh, did you hear that hardcore record that Ghostman just put out or something? Like,
Mm.
they're like, oh yeah, I did. That was sick. I'm like, yeah, well, that's like you should hear more. Like my band plays stuff like that or something. It's already something
Exactly. Yeah.
to, yeah.
Yeah, I think like there are a lot more crossovers that probably either of us like actually know about when it comes to like, hardcore is a world that we make within our own world, and there's like there is some preservation there. But there are like ways that we can latch on to people versus like just throwing them into into the gallows and being like, listen to Trapped Under Ice, listen to like Sick of it all. Like some people need that deep dive, but I think most of the time they need those bridge bands. Like for me, like Trapped Under Ice was one of those bands where it's like, oh, I understand like like the more punk maybe production, but like it's still like harder, like some of the, like metal stuff that I'm listening to. And then
Yeah.
that opened my palette to a lot of other stuff when I was growing up. And I think it's the same way. It's like someone could be like obsessed with metal and then they could listen to like Kublai Khan, and it's like Kublai Khan might not be like a hardcore band, but they're like way closer to being a hardcore band than they are like a metal band, right? So
Yeah.
like they've played, basement shows and garage shows and things like, they've gone through that gauntlet. So
Hmm.
I think it's really important, like you were saying, if you're trying to actively get in your friends either at school or in your workplace that you like, I know you kind of know what a breakdown is. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I can convince you to give some of this stuff a shot at the very least.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Hmm. So, so Set Straight and Mace are the bands that you're playing in. Both of you guys have put out releases kind of during the pandemic. Mace has played a couple shows. I think Set Straight's only played 3 shows as well, because I know that I've filmed all of those.
Yeah. Set straight 2 of them. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so there was the Slosh show. There
And
Oh, there was 2. Oh yeah, you are right. So
yeah.
there was a Slosh show, and then you guys played at Neverland with us again.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and I think that was the changeover, because when Zach came on the podcast, he was talking about like you guys wrote a bunch of material for that show, and then you're like, we actually like this is not the style of music that we want to be playing or have for a demo. So they're like, it was crazy because when I got the footage for that second Set Straight show, I was like, holy crap, like this band's so heavy now. Like it was just like, okay, there's like some cool like harder hardcore stuff, and then the second was like, is this a metalcore band? I'm so confused what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you both bands have put out different releases. Set Straight did the demo at the end of last year, and then the Mace release just came out a couple months ago, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah. So we released the Set Straight demo closer to the end of 2019. And
Or 2020, right?
or wait a minute. Yeah, 20 no, never mind, 2020. Yeah. Yeah. And then yeah, so that was sick. Yeah, definitely a lot different from how we started out. And it's gonna be in that demo is a little bit different than what I think we're heading towards.
Oh,
I don't know, we're
okay.
kind of like really defining like pinpointing what we want to do and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah. And then as far as Mace goes, our sound is definitely changing a lot. We started off, I don't even know how to describe what we were. It was like some kind of beat down deathcore, metalcore, like everything mixture, whatever.
Sure.
And we put out this one EP called Paranoia. It's like very beat down and deathcore type stuff, but it has some hardcore stuff in it, but I think mainly like beat down stuff. And then our most recent EP that released is just 3 songs. It's titled Suffocating. There's definitely some deathcore in it. There's definitely some hardcore in it. I don't know, some death metal type stuff. I don't know. It's just I don't really try to write whenever I'm writing stuff. I don't try to write like, oh, I want to make this like a hardcore song or something. It's just like
You're just having fun and playing around with different things.
yeah, it's like how I want it to make me feel as well. Like I want this part, like, oh, this is very suspenseful. I want the next part to go like bum 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 bum, and then see everyone just fucking, you know.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like and we didn't say it at the top of the episode, but how old are you right now as far as the time of recording this goes?
17.
17. So have you even graduated yet?
No,
This is
that'll
your
be
last year.
Yep.
Got you. Okay, yeah. And I think like when you're that age and you're playing music, it should be that free to like totally flip the switch versus like trying to like stick to one thing. I think like it sounds like there's a new version of Set Straight coming down the pipe, but like I liked that you guys like went in that direction at least for the demo to, you know, kind of stick to maybe more of the roots, and you know, not to say that you can only box yourself in like this is the only style of heavy music that we can do. But I do think that it is cool, and I think any band, if you're that early on in your like musical ventures, should just have fun and like write the really fast song, write the like super slow and down tempo kind of shit. So like, yeah, being able to play around with that is you're on the right path, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like, I don't know, I feel the same kind of way. It's like we're young. I don't know, we don't have a huge following or anything, so it's just like try to figure out like what we're doing and everything, just have fun with what we're doing. I think eventually we're going to land on something that we feel really good about and everything. We're going to stick
Sure.
with it. For now, we're just like doing everything, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, you know, being able to taste different things when it comes to music, and then you're like, hey, this is actually what I want to do, and you know, stick with it, like you said. That being said, you know, I remember when Zach came on the podcast, we were just talking about just like how, again, how important it is to have the youth focus on for hardcore, whether it's like, you know, a giving those bands those bigger opportunities versus, you know, people that have been in bands for years, but also like supporting those groups. I'm kind of curious, like, are there other like maybe younger bands that, you know, that you've either connected with because you're like, oh, we're like, you know, both in high school and doing this or whatever, either within the Calgary space or even on a larger scale, that you're like, more people need to know about this band, and maybe they're not giving them as much a chance because they're like the young kids or whatever.
um, hmm, that's well, I mean, I've had like other friends that I've met that are in bands and stuff like that. It's never like they're usually like super into like Slayer or something, or
Okay.
like trying to, you know, like that. Like it's hard for me to find people that are like hard, like into hardcore or like in that sort of realm. I don't know. It's difficult. Like I don't really know a whole lot of like bands from around here that are doing or trying to do a similar thing. Like I'm sure there's plenty out there, but I think there's just a lot of them that maybe aren't like too particularly present on social media, or like especially right now with the pandemic, like playing live or anything. So
Yeah.
uh yeah, I don't know, I think there's like not a whole lot of the like, I feel like there could be a lot more kids playing, but I don't know, I think with the way that pop culture is shifting, I don't know, like hardcore TikTok is a thing now apparently. um
Yeah.
Yeah, from like the tsunami shows that they're playing in California, like all that stuff.
I see. Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, and maybe it's like bands like Mace and Set Straight are like the first of many when it comes to like, you know, because without those bands, in my opinion, like there is no like inspiration on the younger side to like, well, like I see all these bands doing it and that's cool, but like I need to be able to identify with that person on stage, whether it's like the age or the color of their skin. Like there are so many things at play when it comes to inspiring people to get involved and start bands and do shit within the scene. And yeah, I think, you know, with how society is shifting where it isn't as much of like, I feel like there are so many things to like capture a young person's attention, whether it's like social media, like you were saying, or TikTok. So I think like being able to actually get in front of people and being like, hey, come to this hardcore show that I'm playing, or like come see my band or whatever it is. And or like you were saying, like introducing people, like if people are on TikTok, it's just a that's just a place where there's attention right now. So if you're able to like show someone you know, a tsunami TikTok, and they're like, oh, this this looks crazy. And then you're like, yeah, we have stuff here in Calgary. And then they're like, oh, I'm definitely going to come check it out or whatever it is. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
that there's any shame or a lack of value there. It doesn't need to be like, I need to place this legendary hardcore record in your hands. And if you don't feel something, then you shouldn't be at shows or whatever. Like, I think it's just a matter of like being able to intercept people and then like catch their attention with something visual or like something really, crazy that happened at a certain set, or and then that's how that like, breadcrumb trail starts to build.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I think is really cool about hardcore is that there's like, or not like specifically hardcore, but like a lot of the people that like hardcore and like other things similar to hardcore, like I don't know, death metal. There's a lot of influence in hardcore.
Yes.
So I think that there's a lot of different things for a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, whenever I try to show someone a hardcore band, like I don't know, there'll be someone like um, I don't know, I listen to like rock or something, like just something like maybe I'll show them some like Dare or some Turnstile or something. It's not like super heavy. It's just something that's like it's upbeat, it's fun, it's cool, it's
Right.
something. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I think there's like a lot of different elements that go into making these um different sounds and different styles and stuff that I think that there's a lot of things that people can relate to, but everyone at the same time, I think everyone always shuts it down because everyone's like, oh, it's heavy, oh, it's screaming,
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you're able to capture someone's attention and then like you kind of skip that like, oh, it's screaming or like it's loud or whatever, like if you're like, okay, if you can get past that and I can intrigue you with like this crazy live set or like, this really cool music video that I saw or like anything like that, then it's like, okay, now we can actually, do some real work when it comes to like showing you the hardcore way. And like you said, like, we've kind of repeated it a couple times. Like if someone's like, I like Slayer or Metallica, like maybe going a little too deep and showing them like I am might not like hit them, but if showing them Power Trip is like a little bit closer to that, you know what I'm saying? Like same
Yeah,
thing with like, if someone likes Disturbed, maybe don't throw them like Purity, but like show them like, something in between. When you were saying the rock stuff, I was immediately thinking about Absence of Mind's record because it is like very like almost like dad rock influence. There's lots of like guitar and chorus and like things like that. So like
mhm.
yeah, I think it's about being knowledgeable enough about the scene where you can like make good recommendations, but B also like be strategic of like, hey, like what are the cool things that I can show my friends that are like know about heavy music, but maybe like it's like they it's like those bands that have like songs where they scream for like one verse but everything else is singing. It's like, okay, how do I navigate that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Brock, this has been a really fun call. We can start to wrap up the show here, but the last section of the podcast, as I'm sure you know, is a favorite mosh story that you would like to share. So that could be anything that's first your mind, something that happened to you, something that you saw at a show, something that happened at a set straight show. Whatever's the first thing that you think of is kind of how we start to wrap up.
Well, it's nothing particularly crazy that I've experienced or anything. I think just like the most energetic show, like, and then also like the most moshing I've experienced
Mm.
in person is like whenever Sanction in Vain and like Serration and Fuming Mouth played here.
Yep.
That was crazy. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I didn't really, or actually Ben, the drummer, essentially before I played in
Okay.
at that show, the bassist of Vane fucking spin kicked the shit out of this dude's head, like broke his nose and everything, like
Oh, I remember the moment Yes, because that was during Sanction, I'm pretty sure. Or it might have been Fuming Mouth, but I remember he got in there and he was like, I don't care if this is not my scene. I'm going as hard as I would back home, and just was
Mhm.
just demolishing kids. So yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. That was sick.
Uh-huh.
Felt bad for Ben, but at the same time, you got like pretty sure they offer him like some sort of free merch or something. So like right on, you know.
Yeah, you take one kick and then you might get a free shirt or something out of it. I love that. Well, Brock, again, this has been really fun. It's been great to catch up because, again, like I think the last time I saw you was probably at that Neverland show, which was over a year ago. So I hope
Yeah.
that we can see each other sooner than later. But if there's anything that you want to shout out, plug, or send the people off with before we wrap up the episode, the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, to sum it up, shout out Mace, shout out Set Street, shout out Calgary Hardcore, shout out Canada Hardcore, um, shout out Scoped Exposure for showing hardcore to the world. I really like that shit. I appreciate that shit. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
I love it. I love all the kind words. So shout out to you, Brock, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.